Everything I've loved in this world, and even the curse that fell on me too.
Hello everybody, Infinite Shinjo here. Welcome back to the channel and to part 2 of my Pokemon team video. In the previous part, I discussed what my teams would be if I was in the Pokemon universe from Gens 1 to 4. And in this video, I'm going to wrap things up by going from Gen 5 Unova all the way to the most recent completed games, Gen 8 Galar Sword and Shield. At least at this time of this video is being recorded. I can imagine Scarlet and Violet are probably close to being out at this point, but I'm not going to discuss that just yet. But before I get into this, let me repeat the rules in case you missed the last part. The rules I'm going for with this, I can only choose one starter Pokemon per gen because you typically only get access to one starter Pokemon in a gen. I can only use one generation of Mons in the dex. So for Pokédexes that are smaller like Kalos and Alola, it's going to be a little bit harder. Final rule that I'm including is if I use a Pokemon that has an evolution or something similar in a later gen, then I can't use it twice. So for an example, Eevee has multiple evolutions among different generations. If I would include a Pokemon like Espeon or Umbreon in my Gen 2 video, then I can't include Sylveon in my Gen 6 video. These rules aren't too difficult to follow, especially with the first gen being Unova, and in the base Black and White, they didn't introduce any old Pokemon in the game. You had to use the new Mons. And here is what my team is. So, getting it out of the way, off the bat, there are no starter Pokemon here. Personally, I'm just kind of neutral on all three of them. My favorite is probably Serperior, then followed by Samurott and Emboar. But there were just so many Pokemon that I love from this gen that weren't starter Pokemon. So that's why they had to be cut. So let's go through each one. There aren't really big examples and big explanations for these. So let's go through the simple ones. I love Excadrill's design. I love Conkeldurr's design. Crocodile just looks absolutely fierce. Zebstrika's our first Zebra Pokemon, so that's really cool, and I love that it gets a fire move. I love Haxorus's axe sideburn things. And Reuniclus, I just wanted type coverage, and I associate Reuniclus with a friend that I had in high school for some reason, I don't remember why. But I love all of these Mons, and there are probably a lot more that I love in this gen that I haven't even discussed here. But I just love these Mons. But moving on to Gen 6, it was actually pretty hard because I didn't want to include any Mega Evolutions or anything. There are Mons in my previous videos that could have the potential to Mega Evolve, especially the Kanto starters. So I didn't want to include them and double up on the Megas. So here's my team for Gen 6. So probably an unpopular opinion, my starter choice is Chestnut. I think at first when the base forms were revealed, I preferred Froakie more, but looking back on it, and especially now, I prefer Chestnut, mainly because Greninja is so popular, but also because I love Chestnut's design. I am not going to defend Quilladin, that's not something I'm going to be doing here, but I just love Chestnut. I love that he's got the big bulky armor. I love the grass fighting typing on him, and then we go to Pyroar. I just wanted the fire type for my team, and I believe that's the only one that's available. There might be like one more that I can't remember, but that's the one I went with. And Meowstic, I used a Meowstic on my first playthrough of the game, so that's why I included that. Aegislash and Tyrantrum, probably more normie picks for Gen 6 because they're just widely competitively viable. But I just love Aegislash. I've loved it since it was introduced. Honedge is amazing. Aegislash's whole gimmick is kind of redundant because every Aegislash basically runs the same thing in competitive. But I just love the Steel Ghost typing, which is unique to it. And then Tyrantrum. a legitimate dinosaur Pokemon, and I love him. I just wish that he was better, I guess to put it. I don't know if any teams actually use a Tyrantrum on their team without running Trick Room, but I just love the design, and it might be one of my favorite fossil Pokemon. And then Hawlucha, again, I've loved Hawlucha since it was revealed. I just love the design. The shiny is absolutely amazing. I got a shiny one in Sword and Shield doing Dynamax Adventures, and that is really cool. Definitely doubled up on the fighting typing, but I love fighting types, so it makes sense. But now we move over to the adventures in Alola. And Sun and Moon, I believe it had a little bit of a larger dex than Kalos. But to be fair, a lot of them were Ultra Beast and regional variants, so I didn't count them. So here is what my team looked like. I wanted to try and avoid going for regional variants like the Marowak, Exeggutor, because they're technically Gen 1 Pokemon. And if I would have my pick of what my Alolan form would be if I would replace somebody, I'd probably take out Salazzle and put in Alolan Marowak. That's easily my favorite Alolan form. But moving on to the rest of my team, Primarina is my absolute favorite starter from the three. Popplio is just an adorable goofball. And then we get to Lycanroc. I probably, between the three different forms, Dusk, Dawn, and Midnight, I prefer Midday just a little bit, mainly because Dusk is harder to get because you need a certain ability in order to do it. But I mentioned this in a previous video a long time ago, that I just prefer this form of Lycanroc to Midnight because this looks like a more natural evolution to Rockruff than Midnight does. And Lurantis, I just like Lurantis' design. I'm just not sure why it's not a bug type, because it really should be. But coming 2 generations after Leavanny probably isn't the best idea either way. And Passimian, I just love monkey Pokemon. You show me a monkey Pokemon and I'll absolutely fall in love with it. Salazzle is definitely an odd pick, but from the fire types that were new in the game, I just wanted to use this one among other ones. Sorry, Turtonator. And Vikavolt is just a really coolly designed mon. As far as design, it might be my favorite from Alola. I just love the huge pincers and the little wings on the back. Even though the Pokédex entry lies because it says it's supposed to be fast, but it's not really fast. Rounding off our adventure in Galar and taking a stop until Scarlet and Violet are out for a while, we're going on this team right here. So I don't know if there's actually an unpopular opinion among the Galar starters, because I think all 3 are generally not really well received. But just like Popplio, Sobble is just a stupid dumb boy and I love him. He cries a lot, so it's relatable to me. And Inteleon definitely does look weird, but I just love the whole James Bond aspect of it. And especially after watching Yu Yu Hakusho, I have a more fond appreciation for Inteleon than I would have normally. And then Orbeetle is just a really amazing mon. I'm not too keen on the first 2 stages, but I love Orbeetle and he's just amazing. I was literally playing through the game, my first run through, and when you're going through the forest trying to get the sword and the shield before the Eternatus fight, I legitimately run into a shiny Orbeetle, and I love it so much. I think I have it Dynamax, or maybe Gigantamax, I can't remember. I'll have to check on that actually. But then we go to Sirfetch'd, and this one is kind of for memes because his whole sword is literally 2 times the size of his body, but at the same time I really like him. It definitely breathes a new air of life for a mon like Farfetch'd that's been forgotten for the longest time, and I'm just kind of glad they didn't go with the route of making it a fighting and flying typing, because that would just be super easy to do, and I'm glad they didn't. Then we go to Toxtricity. So Toxel is not one of my favorite baby mons. But the two forms of Toxtricity are absolutely amazing. I really like how wild the colors look with the other form of Toxtricity, but I just like this one more because of the blue electricity, which, considering a lot of other electric types use yellow, oranges electricity, it is really cool to see blue electricity here, and that's definitely different from a lot of other electric types. And then for Hatterene, I'm sure you already know, I mentioned it in my top 10 Galar Pokemon. I love Hatenna, I love Hatrem. Hatrem's my favorite from the line, but it would just look silly for me to have an unevolved Pokemon on my team, so that's why I went with Hatterene. Plus, at the same time, Hatterene gets the extra benefit of being a fairy type, where Hatrem doesn't. Although I'm looking on my team now and noticing that almost everything on my team can Gigantamax, so that's just kind of hilarious. But moving on to my last member, and it is a literal apple pie. Yeah, Appletun definitely wasn't my first choice for a Mon to use, but I wanted to have a grass type on my team. I try to keep a fire, water, grass core, even though it doesn't happen in this one, but I wanted to have at least a majority of the types covered. And looking on the grass types that were introduced in this gen, there are just a lot that I didn't care about. Like, Eldegoss, I don't really care about. I don't know any other grass types offhand that are new in this game, but Appletun's just kind of goofy. I mean that in the best possible way. Like I described Popplio and Sobble before, they're just dumb idiots and I love them. In all honesty, I wish I could go back and get the opportunity to use a Mon like Appletun in a legitimate playthrough. Honestly, since I have time before Scarlet and Violet come out, I might restart my game and just stick with this team for my playthrough. I don't know. If I make a video about that, then you'll know, but otherwise, I might post about it on Twitter. But those are my teams for Gens 5 to 8. And currently, everything that has been revealed. Even if Scarlet and Violet are out at this point, I'm not gonna do it right away because I want to give it some time to get used to the Pokemon. So most likely, if I do a video discussing my team for the Paldea region, it won't be until at least next year, just as a benchmark. But that is the video for today. Let me know what you think about my teams. Let me know if there are any mons that you would change on your teams. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you next time. Momentai.